As an entrepreneur, your mental model is like you want to bend the world, you want to change things. And this is very different from sort of the pricer mindset, because as a trader, what you do is you try to price the world independently of you.
This week, we have Tarek Mansour, founder of Kalshi, the largest prediction market in the world with over 20 billion annualized volume of people trading predictions. Kalshi turned the debates that shape our world into something you can invest in, a whole new asset class for trading on real-world events.
I remember having a conversation about this. Like, what do they have in their heads, dude? They think they're gonna sue the government and win. Just help explain me, they seem like smart people. Like, how are they doing this?
There's bad ideas, terrible ideas, and then there's suing your own regulator, right?
His story is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. From suing and winning against the US government to then becoming the first regulated exchange to list election markets in the US.
I pick up the phone and he said, we won. I screamed crazy.
Where were you?
In the middle of the office. I screamed like crazy. And then people were like, wait, what happened? And then I was like, we won. Dude, the office, the chairs were flying.
I'm Enrique Dubugras, and welcome to HD and HD. This episode is brought to you by Brex, a brand I'm proud to have co-founded and one that's shaped by the same journey many of you are on. Brex has everything startups and fast-growing companies need to make every dollar count, from modern corporate cards, banking, and treasury, to accounting, automation, travel, and expenses. Over 25,000 companies, including DoorDash, Scale AI, and Anthropic, spend smarter using Brex.
Tarek, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, really appreciate it. It's been, I think, when did we first meet? It was probably 2018 or something like that, right? Yeah. And then which year to start Kalshi?
It was basically end of 2018, we started sort of working on it, but we started Kalshi January 2019.
Jan 2019,
NYC.
Right? Yeah, that's right. That's awesome, man. Well, 6 years in, right? It's been a journey. But we'll get to that. So maybe let's start. You're from Lebanon.
Yeah.
How was it growing up there?
So I was actually, people I was born in California actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
In Bakersfield.
What?
Yeah. But then my parents hated living in California so much that they just wanted to come back. So they sort of went back to Lebanon. Grew up in Lebanon. I think it's a very different place because it was sort of definitely, Lebanon has gone through a lot, right? So you've gone through sort of war, we've gone through civil unrest, we've gone through there was a period where there were bombs coming up, everywhere. We literally had one in front of our house one time. So just kind of this very anxious, intense sort of environment that, kind of doesn't leave you, right? It's the sort of thing that when you're a kid and you live through a lot of that, the sort of reflexes that you build up in those times that kind of just stay with you forever. Yeah, living in Lebanon was pretty different, but I think there was a lot of positives about Lebanon. I think. Have you been?
No.
Yeah. The party scene is insane.
Really?
So, yeah, one of the best.
Huh. Would not have thought about it.
Yeah, very tourism heavy economy, and I think that means people like to party.
And when did you go to international school?
I went to French school. Yeah.
French school.
Yeah.
Huh. You speak great French then?
Yeah, so French is my first language, then Arabic, then English.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mostly learn my English for the SATs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's most of the bulk of my English, basically.
What's from there? But you probably movies you're watching in English and stuff like that?
Sort of. I would have French subtitles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before that.
And how were you as a kid? What were you into?
I was pretty nerdy. I was very into math. I worked very hard. I was very, very into anime. I still am, honestly, but
what's your favorite one?
It's hard. Dragon Ball is sort of the one I grew up with. So Dragon Ball has
Wait, have you tried watching it as an adult? Dragon Ball?
I didn't watch.
Oh, you as a kid or as an adult?
Well,
because I tried it watching again as an adult, and it's not that good. It was this memory from my childhood got ruined a little bit.
It definitely was but I still watch and read anime, so it's they got better over time. Obviously, production got better, and a bunch of things got story writing got better. But I think Dragon Ball is amazing. But there's a lot of new ones that are just all pretty incredible.
Have you are you gonna go see the new Demon Slayer movie?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I'm still a big anime geek, but I also did a lot of sports actually when I was young. I did a very large diversity of sports. My mom would push us to sort of would always push us really hard. It's a little bit like a tiger mom, but And she was great in many ways, but like she would push us like really, really hard to like anything you do, you have to win. Like, you know, you have to be the best. You have to
Oh,
be
interesting.
always. Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
So we sort of like, we grew up with a single mom. So my dad kind of like was not very present and sort of wasn't
Did they
like,
divorce?
yeah, very young age. And then he wasn't very present, very like not very leaned in. And we have a relationship, but like, you know, not very close. And
Your mom didn't remarry?
no, she was like very focused on us,
Yeah.
like on, you know, making sure that like, I mean, from the very, very early days, like, you know, you should get to school in the US, you should excel, like you should be the best. Like, I don't know for her. I mean, I think she just like put a lot into kind of educating us. And so she really wanted us to sort of like succeed. And it was this sort of like, I think she cared so much about us that like, you know, maybe she viewed like her kids as are being like,
That's her measure of success for herself.
yeah, in some ways. Yeah. I think that, yeah, correct. Exactly. I think exactly. It turns into that. And that's a good way of putting it. And I think that comes to you then, like, then you have like, you know, it's a setup where like, obviously you kind of grow with a massive chip on your shoulder, right? Like, and nothing is enough. I mean, I remember I had a time when I was 14, 15, like, man, you know, so French system is graded out of 20, not 100. So it's like, you know, 20, the scale is 20. And like, I would get like 19 and a half out of 20. And I would like, I wouldn't be able to sleep. And like, I would like obsess over like how I didn't get, you know, it was that like intense. Right. And so like, there was a sort of very high bar for discipline and excellence and rigor. Like, and, you know, over time you mature out of it. Like you know, not everything, but it doesn't ever, like, it doesn't fully leave you. Right. And
It stays with you, right? That age is like so developmental that,
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's who you are, right? Like in some way.
It's who you are.
But back then, right? Like if you think about when you're like pushing yourself so hard on sports or on academics, you know, like in your mind, what was it for? Like what was the end goal at that moment in time in your life?
It was just like winning. Like, it was just like, you know, doing the sport to basically be the best at the sport. Do this, you know, study to be the best in class or on this exam. Like the end goal was very much sort of like be number one.
Yeah, competitiveness.
Yeah, competitiveness, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There was an overarching goal, like, hey, I want to get to uni, to the schools. I mean, you know, when I was 14 or so, like, starting my math teacher, like, talking about universities, like, oh, this is a space called MIT. Like, you know, this is where, like, all the smart, like, math geniuses go. You know, it's like at the time from Lebanon, like, you know, it's a very kind of, like, external thing to us that when, you know, where we, and so I looked at it and I got obsessed about, okay, I want to get into school and, like, I need to figure out everything to get into school. So that was maybe a little bit of an overarching goal, but, like, the more local goal was, like, might sound a little crazy, but it's like, you know, like an artist is doing like his canvas and like he wants it to be perfect. And it was a bit like that. It was just for the sake of it, you know, like, you know, I mean, I literally would put goals on myself. I was like, okay, on every single math exam this year, I'm going to get like a 20 out of 20 because it was just like, it's a I mean, it would beat any record or something. And it was like, I want it to be 100% perfect and like full OCD, like, you know, that type of thing. And I would obsess over it.
And looking back, you know, like obviously competitiveness, you know, brought you to where you are today. But I imagine there was like some also counterbalance of stress and some downside. Like, what do you think were the downsides of the competitiveness? I
mean, it's interesting, like, right? Like you have to trade off in a bunch of places. I mean, like, yeah, I think like, I mean, the obvious one is like, I'm a stressed, like I'm an anxious guy, like the core, right? Like, you know, and so, yeah, like, you know, in the last 15 years, you know, my baseline stress has been way higher than the baseline of like an average person. So that's in and of itself is a big sort of trade-off. And I think you trade off some life, right? Like you trade off like, you know, having more of a social life. You trade off having more, you know, wanting to do the fun thing that you didn't end up doing. And so, and that's real, right? Like those are moments that you can't get back. And it's hard to go back and say like I would have and should have done. I mean, you know, I'm very lucky to got to where I am. So it's like, you know, and I think that maybe if I didn't do that, like I still think that like my life in the next few decades is going to be much better than it would have been otherwise if I had sort of been more chill or more, let's call it like down the middle. And so it's hard, you know, it's hard to kind of recompare, but it's honestly the same trade-off that you make as a founder. Like, you know, especially what I realized I kind of learned like over time, you know, when like you start coming here, like, at the beginning you think there's like some sort of like end state, like, right? Like, and then never comes. Like,
There's a winning line, a finish line. You're gonna like, I won at this point. It
there's
doesn't
like an end
exist.
state at first. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, the horizon is like, the horizon is finally getting closer, and like, and it's crazy how like it is truly crazy how untrue this is. Like, it's shocking. It really is shocking. Like, like at first you're going through YC and you're like, remember like when we were at YC, we were looking at you and you're like, you and Pedro were talking on stage. You're like, well, what if I ever get to being that guy? Like, life is
I
done.
won, yeah.
Yeah, it's like over.
I mean, getting into YC, right?
I mean, at first it was getting into YC, then we got into YC. It's like, holy shit, this is the craziest thing of all time. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
And then you get to YC and like, like you have Michael and Dalton telling you like, you guys like don't even realize the extent to which you have not even begun yet.
Yeah.
And like, and then he was like, raising your seed round, holy shit, like, raise $2 million, like, holy fuck, this is like crazy. And then it's like, the first time we got a term sheet from Sequoia, I was like, this is it. Like, Sequoia, what? Like, this is crazy.
That means we won.
And But remember, like, it's like you look at the people on stage and like, this person, like, what could they possibly have? Like, what problems could they possibly have, right? Like, they're like, they have it all, like, and so.
Well, now you're there, you can see the problems.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously, it's like, it really is actually orthogonal. And we basically, because like, I think let's define this thing a bit better. Like, what has made it actually? Clearly, it's not like the amount of money. Clearly, it's not like the scale of the business, like how much revenue you're making or other. It's also not the team because, it's none of these metrics that we're kind of generally lose or even it's not even being on stage, right? Like, I'm here now. Like, it's not even being on that stage and like having all these people look up to you thinking you're a legend. I mean, that, it's cool, right? You feel pretty cool when you're on stage and then you go back to your life of, all the issues that you have, right? And so what is it? It's probably some sense of peace of mind, right? Like, would you agree? Like, it's what we are believing when we think about this sort of like steady state horizon. It's probably some sort of like, sit down in your chair at the end of the day and like on your couch and like, I made it. Like, life is good. Things are great right now. And I think that is actually pretty orthogonal to the trajectory and the direction.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story because, as you know, I spent 6 months last year traveling around the world, right, and took a sabbatical. And this was very much a big topic of my thinking during that time, which is like, okay, like what is, I'm turning 30 this year, right? So I'm analyzing my 20s and kind of like, what is making it, right? Like, what is winning? And at least for me, the conclusion I got, dude, is like winning and making it is like going every day to work and just feeling very happy about it. Being like, yeah, like I just love what I do. I love the people I work with. And, I could keep doing this for like a long time and I would still be happy. I think when you get to that point, I think that's when you made it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my conclusion after a bunch of travel.
Yeah, I think it's just like interesting because it's like, I really think it is. I mean, I think that sounds about right. Like, but it is really orthogonal to the progress. This
completely orthogonal,
right? And this is. I mean, maybe it has some sort of like correlation in the early days. Like, if you don't have any money or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, losing sucks.
Yeah, losing sucks. But it's like interesting because like you're continuously put to test when you're building a company, right? It's not like you won and it's done. Like, I cannot think of any company on the planet today that's just sort of like, quote unquote, like safe.
Yeah, we thought Google was safe.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, and now they're put to the test. Like, there's a big question of like, are they winning in the next decade or so versus not, right? And so this kind of winning sucks thing is like, the marathon never ends, right? Like you're ahead. It's like a marathon with no finish line, right?
It's an infinite game. Have you seen this book?
Exactly. It's an infinite game. It's a marathon without finish line. And like, you just, and you're just running. And like, at some point, you have to really figure out like how to actually enjoy the thing.
Exactly, man. Yeah. That's the secret. You got to enjoy the run because if you don't enjoy the run, you're just waiting for the finish line. You're not going to get there, right?
Yeah.
But do you think you enjoy competing?
It's interesting. I've thought about this a lot. Like, like the superficial answer would be like, yeah, for sure. I love competing. Like, that's what, most founders like, yes. I think the better answer, I think, after thinking about it a lot, I think there's a certain type of people that just doesn't really have a choice.
What do you mean?
it's kind of a lesser of two evils. Like, it's like, so if I stop competing, I kind of get depressed. Like I lose like,
Motivation.
yeah, I lose motivation. I lose purpose. Like I'm like, I just get like wobbly and like, you know.
The harder the competition, the sweeter it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like the harder, the more you're like, the harder the challenge, the more you actually feel good at the end. You know, it's like when you get to the summit of something that's really hard climb, you actually do feel great. Like,
feel amazing.
But I do think there's like something about more like this sort of alternative is just really bad for certain type of people. Like I sometimes tell myself like, maybe I would have had a happier life if, you know, none of that sort of had happened. Like, you know, if I could just actually live a pretty balanced life, pretty normal balanced life. And there's a lot of people that like, you know, have a pretty happy life. Maybe they are at the steady state way before that we, you know, that we get to. So, but I don't think I have that option. Like I just don't think so.
Dude, I think that I totally relate to that in a sense. And, you know, after I took the 6 months, at the end, I was bored out of my mind. You know, I was traveling the world, doing everything I wanted to do. At the end of it, I like bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
And when I came back to work, I was like, fuck, this is so amazing. And then every time like I'm struggling with something, right? Like, you know, I think things are not going to work out. Like something goes wrong.
You think about the time?
I think about that time and I'm like, you know what? Like this is going to feel so good. Like, the struggle is going to feel so good, you know, in the end. And because the alternative like really sucks, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's like this, you know, I like to, as you know, I like to sauna cold plunge a lot.
Yeah.
And I always relate to that example, which is like when I'm in the cold plunge for like those 2 or 3 minutes, it really sucks, you know, like it's like really cold, like I'm shivering, like I'm fine. But when I get out, it's like so good.
Yeah.
And it's so good that every morning I like look forward to the cold plunge, you know? And I think, at least I think that that's work and life is about that. It's like you embrace the struggle and then, you know, celebrate the wins and the victories when they come too.
Yeah. I think we're bad at celebrating wins and victories at the company. At Kalshi, it's just something like I don't have this sort of reflex. It's interesting. Like in this part of what we were discussing, it's like you do it and then you're like, you know how like, you know, the like humans reset very quickly. Like, you know, you make more money and then you reset immediately. And then it's interesting because you look at it and you're like, wait, this like, I feel exactly how I felt. I mean, what just happened here, right? And I mean, this is one of the things that I really try to. We have this thing at the company where we're like, we reset immediately. It's like we got that thing, now we reset, and because you know these are all the. I'm a strong believer, by the way, in companies with the like every solution to a problem is like it really is intrinsically a creator of a new set of problems. Like it's a like you keep opening up new problems. That's basically the way that this thing branches out.
Yeah.
And I reset too fast, unfortunately. But over time, you know, we're getting a little bit better. Like, pause, this was cool, this was awesome, you know, just like celebrate it. And then, you know.
I remember at Brex, you know, we had this thing which was very stupid, which is like, you know, like every time we got a term sheet, we're like, no, we're not going to celebrate a term sheet. We're going to celebrate when the money's wired, right? But then like a month after, you know, it already passed, you know, like, you know, it's like there's a whole new thing.
It's dead, yeah.
And so the learning we had is like, dude, just celebrate early. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like whenever you have the win, just celebrate the fucking win, you know? And it's okay to celebrate it again later. Like, you know, that's part of the enjoyment too.
Yeah. I think it's also important for the team. And I think, you know,
yeah, it's important for you too, you know, like it's important for us to kind of like, you know, have that moment, you know, and really enjoy that because we just fucking competed and fought for a long time, right? Like you gotta savor the good moments of it. Going back to kind of like your Lebanon, like what was the first time you remember feeling this like winning thing, you know, like?
I was very young. Like, you know, it must have been like.
Do you remember like, wow, fuck, I competed, I won, this is amazing, this is really hard. Was it getting into MIT? Was it winning some ski competition?
Yeah, I mean, very early days. It's definitely like in very, very early. Maybe I might have been like 9 or 10, like, you know, like in class, just like trying to get the highest grade and like competing on some like exam. And then also in sports, like it was like when I would play soccer from a young age also, it was like, yeah, how do I, you know, like soccer is like this really nice feeling. Like if you're the guy who's scoring, like who's the one who's scoring, like you feel pretty good.
Yeah,
you know?
It's great.
It's great, right? And like,
I was really bad at it in Brazil, so I didn't score many goals, but
Yeah,
I
but
really,
it's like addictive.
when I did, it was amazing.
It's really addictive, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like when you feel that like you have like certain control over the pitch and like there's a presence, like it's pretty addictive. And so that's from a very, very young age. Like we played a lot in Lebanon and like it's pretty intense and like we'd be very competitive about it. And, you know, it's like your social status is determined by like how good you are at sports. And, you know, when you're young, like,
Yep, totally.
so that was a big thing. Like, you know, competing and trying to win on that front was big. And it's interesting now that I think about it. It's like, you know, it's interesting how many like top scorers, not all of them, but a lot of top scorers in soccer like have big egos,
Yeah.
right? Like the front line, like the attackers, and it's like, and it's interesting. That's interesting, right? It's clearly like someone who just like legitimately is obsessed by just like scoring. You know, like they just want to score. They want their
the
stats
glory.
to go. Yeah, exactly. They want glory, and I think that feeling was there. I think soccer, very very young age.
Do you think you always had a big ego?
I haven't changed, is the way I'd put it. So I don't know. I mean, like, it's interesting. Maybe it's a question like, do I have a big ego? I mean, I think that like, I definitely have an ego, but like, I'm also sort of like, I think a lot. I know, and maybe that's what everyone does, but like, I think a lot. Like, I question myself all the time, like continuously, all day, all like, you know, I like break the person and the assumptions and everything pretty continuously, like all the time. So I don't know if that's true for all people that have an ego, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm saying this because people around me generally say that I have an ego. I don't think it's sort of like outlier or anything like that. Like you know, I don't think I'm an asshole. But the way that it manifests usually, I think the most is like, it's on the dimension of like, maybe like logic or like it's on the dimension of like, if someone basically says something that like, I don't think makes sense, I will be very, very quick and
show them how it doesn't make sense.
Potentially harsh. Yeah. And over time I got better at like communicating that, etc. But like that I think is a dimension that I think is and it might be because, you know, in the early days, like when I was younger, like I really emphasize on like, you know, being the smartest, being the sort of like, you know, the best at math, and that became part of my identity. That might be, I think, where it comes from. But I don't think it's changed. Like I don't think I've changed much. I think I'm just a bit calmer now, basically.
Yeah, a little bit less anxious about validating yourself and proving yourself.
A little bit less anxious about that. I think accepting, you know, like I think, you know, one of the things that I there's a quote that I love a lot, which is like, it's actually a French song, which basically says in French in a better way, but the transition to English is basically like, aging is mostly compromising.
How is it in French?
I need to remember. Something like vieillir c'est compromettre or something like that. But like, but basically like aging is compromising, and I like this a lot. Like it's one of those things that like, it's a quote that's so true. Do you understand what like it's like this idea that like, as you age, you start realizing that this sort of like nirvana doesn't really quite exist, and then there's actually trade-offs. And, you know, you have to basically figure out where you want your dials to be.
Like, pick your shit sandwich.
Yeah. Like there's dials, and you're going to have to figure out where, like, you're going to play with these dials, and like, you have to compromise on some of these dials. You're not going to get basically everything all, you know, you're not going to get that whole thing the way you think that you're going to get.
What did you think that you thought you were going to get, and like, what are the compromises?
You know, I think maybe this, what I was saying about it for the question of ego, like, you know, when you're young, you genuinely have this sort of view that like, and it's not very defined. You don't write it down on a piece of paper, but I think this, and I'm curious if you had that when you were young, but like this sort of idea that you're going to be like the best in the world, right?
100%. Dude, I was like 100% sure I was going to be the richest man in the world. Like,
for me, it wasn't even richest. Like,
yeah.
Rich is not that important. I mean, it's more about like, it wasn't like purely like dollar value.
Yeah.
It's like the best in the world, right? Like the guy, like, you know, and I think what I like, okay, let's try to put some parameters around what I was thinking. It's like probably like the most successful, like something, I don't know, maybe entrepreneur or something else, but the most successful, the most respected, the most loved, the most rich, the best family, like, you know, like
there's
the
no
best
compromise. You're going to be 10 out of 10 in everything.
The best in the world, right? And you look at it now, and it's like, well, who is the best in the world, right? Like, who is it, right? Like, if you look at all these kind of like categories, like, does Elon fit all of them? No.
No.
Does Zuck fit all of them? No, right? Like and does Trump fit all of them? No, like, and so obviously this was sort of the 18-year-old, like 17-year-old version. And then you start figuring out actually like, no, I'm actually going to have to work way harder than I thought because I'm not that special actually. And, that's one dial that I'm going to, and then, and you start basically dialing things down and up and, but like aging is compromising, I think.
Yeah. I relate a lot of this idea of like, when you're growing up, you think you're so special,
Yeah.
And then, you kind of get to the real world and it's like, oh shit, there's a lot of really good people in the world, man.
There's a lot of really good people, but it's also like, even that sort of like, I just think it was like an inconsistent state. Like you realize that like, it's like you want to have the best company, but you want to have a fun life. And it's like, you realize like they're not actually consistent.
No, it's hard.
The people that are like building these like large businesses, like
don't have a fun life.
They don't have a fun life. That's they work like animals. They truly work like animals. There's no way to put it otherwise. You have to be on top of it 24/7, 7 days a week. Like, and it's not the same as the person that basically takes 3 months off and, goes around the south of Europe in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Like, and like there's a lot of like founders that I look up to that, are in that same bucket that you've been doing it for like 15 years. And like, it's like hardcore discipline, and they've made that sort of, they've dialed some dials up and some dials down, and that's a trade-off they made.
Yeah. You just got to be happy with the trade-offs you make, right? Like,
exactly.
I think the hardest thing is when, you're trying to break that trade-off and then you're unsuccessful at it, and you're not getting anything that you want. That's like the hardest, right?
Like basically bend the curve. Yeah. I mean, like, I do think that some people have better overarching, like I think you can actually move your trade-off curve up, right? Like, I don't think it's always like some people are on a higher curve than others. And I think there's a mix of luck.
What do you mean a trade-off curve?
Like very simple, like, a trade-off curve is basically like, oftentimes with like sort of engineering teams, it's like, should we be like more risk on or risk off? So like more speed, but maybe like higher error rate, or less speed and lower error rate. And so there's like, you could trace a curve. And then a lot of times I tell the engineering teams like, well, be on a better curve. Like, if you're better, you're going to be on a higher curve. And you can get more speed with less errors,
Yeah.
It's a sort of idea of Pareto frontier. Like, what is your frontier and can you push it forward?
Yeah.
Same with risk reward.
I like that concept.
It's same with risk reward, right? Like some trades are better than others. Like some trades provide a better risk reward profile than others, and like or baskets or like or portfolio baskets.
Find those, right?
Yeah, like find the higher kind of so. I think it applies to life as well. Like I think there are lives that are like better lived than others, where like you can actually push your frontier higher, and then you can figure out what trade-offs you want to make on that frontier.
This is one of the things I remember about meeting you early on is that you're probably the first person I met that had a very strong like expected outcome framework.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels that after over the years, you kind of like look at life a little bit less like that.
That's true.
Okay, tell me like what was it before and like how it evolved.
That's actually a very good observation. I mean, I think like because I like really like I'm a very mathematical person. Like that's how I think, and so that's one. Two is I spend a lot of time in trading. I really like trading, like financial markets, pricing things. I mean, this is why I started Kalshi, like pricing things. And so when you trade, like. You think a lot about two things really at the end of the day. Like you think about expected value and you think about variance, right? Like you think about expected outcome, like what is the expected outcome of a certain action or trade, and how much variance is there around sort of the
maybe you explain those concepts a little bit.
Like expected outcome is basically like if it's like the average outcome. It's like you have a distribution of potential outcomes. Like you might lose. Like let's say you buy like a share of Apple, and the next week, maybe you lose the distributional outcomes could be like losing minus 20% all the way to winning 30%, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole distribution. And then you can figure out based on the probabilities, if you put the probability to each one of these outcomes, like this, okay, losing 20% is 10% chance and losing 10% is like 20% chance. And then you put a probability to each one. You can average all of them out to figure out what's the expected value of this. And you're like plus 5% is the expected outcome here. right? That's like the idea of average or expected value. And variance is basically like how large is sort of like how kind of like dispersed is the set of outcomes that are very likely. So it's like, and very simply to explain, is like if you have a stock that this week could do minus 10% or plus 10%, the variance is approximately, it's not exactly that, but it's approximately like, 10%. That's a standard deviation. And if you have a stock that can do minus 50% or plus 50%, those are the two outcomes possible in that stock. That's a higher variance stock, right? Like they both have the same expected value. It's 0%, but the variance is much larger. And that's important in trading because that allows you to size things, right? Like that tells you how precise you can be about where you're going to land. And variance is very important in that regard. I think that like this concept can be applied to a lot of things in life. Like, and when we were first chatting, like back in the day, like, I had a very kind of risk-based, like trader mindset framework for life. Like you can price everything in that way. Like, if I, take a certain job versus the other job, you can try to assign probabilities. Like what is the percentage chance that I make these different outcomes over that trajectory? And then you can create an expected outcome, expected value for these two different paths. And, it was interesting. I think that when we were discussing this is in the concept of like starting a company, like starting a company is a very negative expected outcome endeavor. It really is.
It really is.
Like it's crazy. It's like you look at it, you look at the stats, like, okay, you go and be a trader. What's your expected outcome as a trader? It's pretty good, actually.
Well, when you were thinking about being a trader, like what was the expected outcome, you think?
It was pretty high. Like, I was going to go to Citadel and like,
Like what is the expected outcome of going to Citadel?
I mean, like, I don't remember, but it was like, I mean, like, look, reasonably, like without kind of divulging like too much sort of like our specifics to that, but like roughly speaking in finance, some of those kind of higher tier jobs, like I think in your first year, you could make one. That's like, you're 22. And then your second year, you could make
like $1 million?
Yeah. 2. And then like, if you're really good, third year, you can start flirting with the sort of 3-4 range. And like within 5 to 6 years, you could like now be playing in the $9 to $10 million a year range.
Wow. So by
the time you're 30, 32, 33, like,
you're making tens of millions of dollars.
You could be making tens of millions of dollars. Now you have to be one of the best, but still, like, if you assume that you're pretty good and, and like, and there's variance, obviously you may blow up and like, you have to
get fired.
You're fired. But then like, if you're good enough, also you can go somewhere else. And, but if you have variance on the upside, like my desk, the one that I was joining, like, is, I think one of my ex-boss is just incredible. Like I interned with him, incredible, like super smart trader. I have insane amount of respect for him. Like they crushed it in the following years, absolutely crushed it. But the expected outcome there like was high, like really high, it was really hard to sort of like look at that from a dollar perspective and compare it to anything else, and anything will look the same. There's nothing that in the next 10 years, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make, tens of millions, like 50, maybe even like, up to 9 figures in the next 10 years.
With this high probability of happening.
With this high probability, like nothing, on an expected value basis, right? And like you look at the starting a company, you look at the stats there and you're like, dude, like this is horrendous. It's like, right? Like the stats are horrible, like truly horrible. Like,
it's like right now being an AI researcher and deciding to like start a company.
Like if you optimize your expected outcome, be an AI researcher,
exactly.
That's so exactly. So that was one of the things that like were always hard for me at the beginning, like, start a company. And honestly, like this is kind of maybe that speaks a lot to why we started Kalshi. Like it just wasn't about the money. Like it really wasn't. Like that math that I did was just completely tilted in the other direction. I think we just genuinely got obsessed with the idea. Like my heart was in it. Like, and I couldn't do anything about it. It was despite like, it's one of those like situation where like the idea pulled us into doing it rather than like us wanting to be an entrepreneur. And
you wouldn't have started any company. This is the company.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't think so.
It's very special, man.
Maybe. I mean,
it's not a reality for most founders.
Yeah, I realized like afterwards, but then you look at the history of Kalshi and you realize like the types of things we have done to deliver on that same consistent vision is not like are not normal. As we started the company, the one thing I learned And this is very different from sort of the trader, like pricer mindset, because as a trader, what you do is you try to price the world independently of you. And you just like, you don't care about what, like you're not trying to influence what's going to happen. Like you don't care what's going to happen. You just let it be. So it's a mental model. Like you build a model of the world and how it functions, and you basically try to make money off of it, right? The one big miss in that model in terms of the EV, like the expected value, the one big thing that was missing from that model and that I learned over time is that as an entrepreneur, there's a you part in it that's a very, 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 very big factor in the probabilities. Like huge factor. Like as an entrepreneur, your mental model is like you want to bend the world, you want to change things. As a trader, you're just pricing and letting it, like whatever is going to happen, you basically make money off of it. And so I think the thing that I really kind of learned over time is that, dude, sheer force of will is like, can break anything. Like I think sheer force of will can like truly, it's shocking, honestly. It's shocking how much sheer force of will can get you. And that was not something you can price. Like you cannot think of it as an expected outcome thing, because you have to incorporate like, well, actually the expected outcome as an entrepreneur is much, much, much higher if you condition, like, the expected outcome for any entrepreneur is pretty bad. But expected outcome for an entrepreneur, given that this entrepreneur, if you condition on that entrepreneur basically being in a mindset of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, is actually much higher.
There's an investor once that told me something that I think I really believe and adopt, which is I asked like, hey, tell me about your process. Like, how do you evaluate founders, et cetera? And he's like, well, one of the things I do is like, I always call their friends, to ask about them. And the trait that I most think is correlated to success is when I hear from a friend, oh yeah, that person, they just like everything they want, they just get, they like shear things into reality, it's like everywhere in their life. And I think, that's like, I don't know, some people call that agency, being very high agency. And I think you're absolutely right. Like if you have very high agency entrepreneurs, that's a really big factor in the probability. It's not an independent thing, right?
Yeah. I think like sheer force of will just gets you very far. And I think, but now even then, like even now, I mean, matters like, we'll talk a little bit about the story of Kalshi, but like I still think a lot about expected outcome in terms of the execution. It's like there are certain things that you can control and certain things that you cannot control. And like I think a lot about like, okay, what is the expected outcome of the direction that we're taking? And there's quite a bit of variance in like what could happen. The outcome may not be, it could be positive or negative. And this has happened in the history of the company quite a bit. And it's interesting because people don't think much about the expected outcome. They just like look at the variance, and like that's what they kind of grade you on. But over time, like the hope is like on a long enough time horizon, like you get enough like rolls of the dice that your outcome basically converges with the expected outcome.
Yep.
Right. So like some years are bad, some years are good, but like, over time.
And when you say people like usually don't look as much as expected, do you think they overemphasize the negative or underemphasize the positive?
I think there's a little bit of, I think there's that bias. I think so. It's a bit like, when a soccer team loses, like, when like soccer team loses, like they always blame the coach. And when it wins, they don't really like congratulate the coach. There's a little bit of that. What I think running a company.
Yeah.
The market was great. And, and that's true. That's true. Yes. And like, there's a number of things, but like, you have to really look at it holistically. Like how did the company get to where it is? And like, and I think people don't attribute that much. And I think just purely like people just cannot differentiate beta from alpha, which is another kind of trading concept. But like,
explain that for everyone.
Yeah. Like beta is basically the market, like how did the overall market do? Alpha is like, what did you specifically contribute? Right. Like, so very specific example, like if you're a hedge fund, and on any given year, like the S&P did 10% and you did 15%, roughly speaking, the beta was 10%, your alpha was 5%. So you did 5 on top, right? And if you're a hedge fund and you did 5%, you're actually pretty bad, because you're negative 5 alpha. Your contribution was like, you made your investors less money than the market made. And I think you can attribute that to companies too, right? Like you could think about that to companies, because there are companies that had no market tailwinds. Like one example is DoorDash. Like I think DoorDash is a company where like that company that did not have much beta, like at all. Like you need to think of a company that like where its market, like the S&P was doing minus 20% every year. And then, Tony was managing to print 5% every year.
Or SpaceX.
SpaceX is another one, right? Like very high alpha, and very no beta. And then you look at them and it's like, okay, well, Tony, like this type of founder is a top tier founder, right? Like it's a killer founder because, their market dynamics are very hard. They don't have anything to help, but like they are, their execution, their discipline is basically the thing that's making the company successful.
Yeah, I remember there was one investor once that told me something that I thought was interesting. This concept of like how much, he generally believes that if the opportunity exists, eventually someone is gonna take that opportunity, right? Which is like,
yes,
I think, look, all these things, both SpaceX and DoorDash would exist at some form of them, at some point in the future. But how much did that entrepreneur bring the future into the present?
Yeah.
Which is like, it would probably exist, but maybe it would exist 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later. Yeah. But then they kind of like brought it to the present, right? Which is very hard to do.
Yeah, I think that like, I like this idea because there is sort of like, the market was going to do itself and you wrote it. Like I see this a lot, for example, like in crypto, that's like one of the places where like the market beta was so good. That's hard to differentiate alpha.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, are you a good trader because you bought Bitcoin in 2013? Like, I don't know. Like, that doesn't say much. But like, are you a good trader if you're at Jane Street? Like, probably, because you make money in any market all the time.
Yeah. You got into MIT. Was that your top school where you wanted to go?
Yeah. Yeah, I got into Stanford, MIT, a bunch of others, but like the MIT was my number one. Like that was the one that, I was kind of pretty dead set on.
How was the MIT experience?
I loved it. It was like amazing. It's like you get there like, holy shit, this is like crazy. And like, it was fun. You get out of Lebanon, like it was a completely new environment. I mean, the one thing that was interesting is I didn't really speak much English. So that was hard at first. So what I did is like, I joined a frat and I noticed something. It was like, how there's like people that are like, have been around the US for like 30 years, but they have a very strong accent.
Yeah.
And I always wonder like how, like you've been around for 30 years, how did your accents not change? And like what I kind of started learning about is like, actually your accent is mostly formed in the early days of speaking, like in the first month
3 to 6 years old or something like that, right?
Well, but if you're learning a new language,
yeah, of course.
If you're learning a new language, it's like, it's in the first few months. It's like in the first month or two. So it's like, okay, interesting. So what I did is I joined a frat and like stayed a lot with like, I didn't stay much with internationals, stay with Americans.
That's very different. Most internationals hang out with internationals.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And it's like, it gave me like accelerated like accent basically, which was great. I mean, I don't have like a perfect accent, but like it's not very strong. And I was pretty intentional about that. And that also pushed me to speak English, like better, faster, just improve my English. But then I loved it. I mean, I think you realize you come in and you're like, okay, I was in a small pond, now I'm in the ocean. And like, there's all these insanely smart people, like truly like, I mean, unfathomably smart. Like, and this thing is like exponential, I think. It's not like I've met people, you look at them, you're like, okay, well, the compute on this person is just like truly a 10x. And they can go way further ahead.
When's the first time you noticed that at MIT?
There was one person, this guy, Umair Sirahoglu or something like that. And we're doing this insanely hardcore advanced like physics class. And like and there was these like really difficult problems. We'd work on them for like a week or two. And this guy would come in like the night before, just like open his like, thing and like, would be sitting next to me and just like would rip through the problems. And I'm like, what is up with this guy? Like he wouldn't even like use it. He would like have to Google it. And like, he was just like, start writing and like, he would see it. And he would start speaking about things like, yeah, you could like think of it. And he would see things like in like, these types of mathematicians that can see things and like, and
you just can connect patterns that like, it's
yeah. And at first I was like, man, I think this dude is cheating or something. Like, I know.
Yeah.
And then like I Googled the guy and he's like this guy who like won the IMO when he was like he's the third youngest guy to ever win the IMO. He won it when like he got number one when he was 13.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's Terence Tao who won it like I think 6 months or 4 months younger than this guy, than Umair. But like, and then like I spent time with this guy because I was like fascinated. I mean, I'm really fascinated by like, how these brains work and like, man, this guy is like truly like, when people use genius like very liberally, how genius, like, like that guy was like truly, okay, his brain is wired different, like and And it's interesting because he kept taking harder and harder classes at MIT. He got so bored that he he went into poetry last time I heard about him. Like he's not like now, I don't know if he still are, but I know for a while he's doing poetry.
So funny, yeah. My smartest friend too that ended up doing something very different.
Yeah, because they just get, I don't know, they get bored and like,
Yeah.
so, but MIT was amazing. And then like, doing a lot of math. Then I started like learning about finance because a lot of the smart math people were like basically going into finance or trying things around finance. And, I function a bit that way. It's like first, like, I get obsessed about like, okay, like being the best at math and like, getting exams. Then I got obsessed about getting into MIT. And so I focus all my energy and attention there. Then I got obsessed about getting into, like that time, like I was like, I need to go to Goldman Sachs because that's where, the cool, like, the cool kids are going and the smart people. So I get into Goldman my freshman year.
For internship.
Yeah. Or sophomore year, maybe. Like it was sophomore year in the winter. So it's like, a few months in the winter and then a few months in the summer. And like that was 2016. So that summer, right before Brexit and the first Trump election, I was looking at, I was working at this desk and like, it's called Equity Exotics. And like a few things I started noticing, like one, you walk into this sort of trading floor and man, like you have like hundreds of traders trading things like swaps and options and like, all these like, especially like swaps were the ones that were like, man, like this is like so far removed from like normal reality, it's like, how do we get here? Like, how is this like a massive industry, right? And
so many layers of abstraction over reality.
It's
right?
like crazy, right? And so I got obsessed with financial history. Started reading everything, like how did like different instruments come to be? Like I got really excited about like, why is the financial market the way that it is? I loved kind of learning about, why are financial markets structured in a certain way? How do they kind of evolve over time, et cetera? And, it's like simple things like why do we have a few banks that own most of the float in the US? And you go back, it's like actually it's like JP Morgan, like he just like called up a bunch of his friends. He's like, hey, let's figure out how to build a coalition where we basically own, and then he willed it into existence. And now this is how the US financial system or banking system is structured. And there's like a lot of interesting things in financial history. And like I learned in that period that like, two things generally tend to be true. Financial instruments are usually double-edged sword. They bring a lot of prosperity, but they also, generally speaking, like bring out greed in people. People start doing crazy things every time there's like a new type of, or most times there's a new type of financial technology. And two, it's always contested, legally, regulatory. It was a very contested, like financial service and healthcare. I think are the two most contested sort of hardcore. You get like regulatory legal.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I like, okay, so that was happening. And then like I was on this equity exotics desk and like, okay, I would like listen to what people were asking for. And like, man, they were like, the way they would formulate their questions and the way they were thinking about they were like, hey, like Brexit might happen. I want to put a position on Brexit or I want to hedge against Brexit. Then it's like, oh, Trump might win the election. I want to get exposure to that, to Trump winning the election. Or I want to hedge against Trump winning the election. And so what we would do is we'd take, okay, fine. Like we'd take a bunch of these other instruments, swaps and options, and try to put them together to get them that exposure. So one very common trade we did was like the Trump trade was like, oh, if you want to get exposure to Trump winning the election, make money if he wins. Or, you can put like it's called a calendar spread, but like imagine like using like 4 options to basically like squeeze that specific election week to put an effective short on the S&P. So it's a bit of a complicated, there's correlation, a bunch of things. You can make it also more complicated. You could do it with S&P and Nikkei and a bunch of other indices. And we would sell these bundles. Then, man, it was interesting because like Trump won the election, but these people lost money, right? Like S&P rallied when he won. So it's like a bad proxy. Like, so first problem is it was a proxy. It was a bad product. Like, Number two, second problem is
we were overcomplicated the thing and then was wrong.
Just not the thing, It's like it's yes, maybe you believe that, but that's not exactly the belief. The belief is like I think Trump is going to win, not the S&P is going to go down.
Yeah.
So it's a proxy, and I and these are not retail people, but like it's institutions, wealth managers, all hedge funds, corporations, but like they were still thinking in natural terms because people don't think usually like they don't walk around the street. The average person doesn't walk around the street thinking like. I think the S&P, the S&P end of day has like 3 theta. They think like, I think maybe the Fed is going to raise interest rates. Like, and so Number two is very expensive. Like we would charge crazy fees because we're just the only pricer, right? Like we're the only counterparty that was offering these. And three is inaccessible. Obviously, not everybody can walk into a Goldman like investment bank to basically do this. So this was sort of when the idea, like we started thinking about like, like you have a financial market to price companies like equities, like to price credit and debt. You have one for commodities, like physical commodities. We have one for currencies. Like, what if you just build a financial market to price simple questions about the future? Right? It's one of those ideas like I couldn't unsee. Like I just, it's like, it makes a lot of sense. Like that's how people think naturally. Like that's just, and you can price it. Like literally something, you see it now in Kalshi. Like, we've always seen like you can price this event, have people trade it actively based on the probability of whether it's going to happen or not. And the two things that I felt were true is like, one, if you could build such a financial market, it could be the largest of them all because the largest number of people might care. And then number two, it'd be very useful because you're applying the power of markets to not pricing a company, but to pricing our future. Like important questions about the future, which would make us smarter, would be like would shed light on how we can basically be better as a species. And like, so I got very excited about that idea, but I didn't start the company then, right? Like that's 2016. So it's 2019, right? And then it was interesting because like, Luana started at Bridgewater. And it's interesting. Bridgewater has two divisions, one that comes up with the views about the world and what's going to happen. And then the other division, like they take those views and figure out how to execute them in the market. It's like, well, how about you just take the view and trade on the view, right? Like, and I saw it the same as Citadel. And we also were working at, we were working at someone at Five Rings, both of us. And we were like, it was this sort of whole thing about like make a market, which is like any questions that you have. Like you think, Luana was like placing trades with people like, I think Kylie Jenner is going to be pregnant. I'll buy like 90 cents on the dollar because I think there's a 90% chance probability of this happening. So we were playing that game naturally all the time. And so it was this idea that would keep coming back. And like over time, we got more and more obsessed with the idea. Like we were like, and I was going to go to Citadel, like, that was going to go work there. This is like what I was going to do. But in some ways, the idea was like, I found myself reading more and more and being pulled by the ideas. And same with Luana, like it was just kind of pulling us. It was kind of forcing us into basically going and doing it. And I think maybe that's one of the parts that was, because I was not a guy that was being the entrepreneur and meeting entrepreneurs and doing all these different things at MIT. Like I was just not.
You were not a startup guy. That was like,
just not.
Yeah.
It's actually probably the opposite. Whatever the opposite of startup guy is, like that was me.
Yeah.
It was like frustrating. I was like, I could not let it, like I could not push it away. I'm like, go take the Citadel job, and I couldn't. And then I started putting thresholds for my, so what really happened, I have this friend, Sudhanshu, and this other friend, Perv. We were having breakfast one day at this a place called Tate, which is like in Cambridge next to where we are. And Noah and I were like talking about the idea, we're excited about it. And like, but we're again like pretty set on our like path. But then he was like, Sudhanshu was like, hey, I'm going to this like hackathon in Y Combinator. And I had heard of Y Combinator. I was like, oh, all these like geniuses like go to Y Combinator that build these multi-billion-dollar companies. That was very, still early YC, right? And he's like, you should come. And I still have the text. He released them on Twitter recently. It was crazy. It was like crazy. He was like, and I was like, and then we checked this website. He's like, oh, the website says that it's something like it's expired, like the application is done and whatever. And then he was like, maybe just email them that like you did not have accommodation or travel and like you just figured out a way to do it. So I emailed the guy, I think his name was Craig, I forgot. It's like head of events at YC or something. So Dancho convinced me to do it. And he's like, email and just go. Like it'll be, at least try it out. And so I tell Luana, and Luana, you met Luana. Luana is very like Luana is very risk loving. Very like I'm risk averse. Luana is very risk loving, very stubborn. Like just like like any idea, like no matter how outrageous, if Luana thinks it's gonna, she'll just go for it. Doesn't even think about the downside and how it balance each other. And she's like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Let's go. And we went, and then Sudhanshu didn't end up going, which is funny because he was going. I went because he was going, and then like he didn't end up going for some other reason. So and I emailed the guy. I was like, hey, like this accommodation thing, can we please come? Whatever. I know we're late. He's like, yeah, fine, just come. So we went there. We like scraped together some. At 24 hours, we put together like some front end without a back end. Like we're just gonna put it all together, and like it was crazy. Didn't sleep all night, the whole thing. And then it was so funny because like they grouped everybody into groups, and then you have to go pitch the YC partners. And then after that, they pick some finalists and like you go pitch on stage for everybody. And like, so we walk into the room and it's like Michael Seibel and Christina from Vanta. She hadn't started, I think she had just started Vanta at the time or, something. But, and then, I pitch, I start, hardcore, like I have a deck, like start pitching the idea. And then, Michael like looks at, like pauses a bit and he's like, what you're saying here is like totally illegal. Like it's like this whole thing is illegal. Like, what the fuck are you talking? What's your legal plan here? Like, what are you talking about? And like, blah, blah, blah. And, Christina was doing that, like, just like laughing, it's like, he's just like shits on the whole thing, And Michael, typical Michael, how Michael is like,
Yeah.
And then so I was like, we walk out of that thing and I'm like, look, we tried, like, and it was this constant, like, I want to prove to myself that this thing is not going to work out. So I can finally let it be.
Yeah.
This was
you just want to be a fucking Citadel trader.
Yeah, like I did, like, just let me be. And it's like, look, Luan, like, it didn't work out. We're both like, yeah, like we're just gonna go work and it's gonna be great and like it's fine. And I remember like I just went and like I like drank a few beers. Like, I got kind of tipsy and like, I was like, just like fine, like we'll fly back tomorrow or whatever. And then they called us to be finalists. And I was like, and like I was kind of like looking at Michael, like, dude, you shat on the whole thing. What happened here? And then, I go on stage and like, just pitch the idea and like, and then we win that thing. And
how did that feel?
It was a little bit like, it's like, first of all, it's like pretty sick. And then two, it was like surprising. It was like, I mean, okay, what happened there? And like, we were like pretty pumped and energized. It's like, like room of hundreds of people and, like
Totally.
you're totally in your, not an environment where you're in Silicon Valley, all that. And so, and then, what you want, I think, is like an office hour or like, I think we want an office hour with Michael. So we talked to Michael, yes, office hour. It was like pretty cool. And like, just gave us some advice and stuff like that. It was very early days. He's like, oh, you need a name. I remember we also found the text between Luan and I, like choosing the name. And it's just like, and then like, wait, let me read this text.
Yeah,
to you.
please,
Let me read
see
this
it.
text to you, actually. So I was like, this is the one asked me, like, what's HN? And I was like Hacker News or Hacker News.
Hacker News, yeah.
And then I was like, it's like some YC ID thing. He's like, oh, I don't have it. I was like, yeah, me neither. And then she was like, we need a name for the lawyer thing. It's like the lawyer thing, It's like, I think we're like, I don't know, whatever. Tell me some name. And I was like name for a company that's so early. And she's like, because we're not starting a company, It's like, like we're just talking to Michael or something. And then she's like, yeah, lol, anything works. I was like, that's kind of stupid. And she's like, just a random name. And then I was like, Kalshi. And then she goes, like 3 question marks, like, what? What? And then I was like, it means everything in Arabic. I was like, everything in Arabic is Kalshi. So that seems like a decent start. And she's like, haha, okay. Does it not sound good? She's like, it's too complicated. I'm like, okay, we'll change it later, I guess. Like, either it also doesn't sound good. And then I was like, maybe Omniplex, that's also cool.
Thank God you didn't go with Omniplex, dude.
I mean, they're just like, what does that sound for? It's too nerdy.
That sounds like a fucking like a movie theater thing, Like it's like, oh, you go to the Omniplex to watch something. Or something
yeah, I mean,
that.
like, and then one goes like, what does that stand for? It's too nerdy. Need something millennial like Coachella. I was like, I don't know. We'll think about it later. And then we started talking about some other like legal thing, and then like. Well, it's funny actually. The next text that Luana sent was like, how would we summarize our legal problem? I was like, well, this is not legal in America. It's our legal problem.
That's the summary.
That's the summary.
It's illegal.
It's like one word, illegal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our legal problem. There are certain problems that are very simple. It's like and like
Exactly.
This one is very black or white. Like not allowed.
Totally.
So it was funny because that's how I forgot. This is how the name came about. And it's interesting because all the like problems we have with the name today we knew at the time, but we were just sort of nonchalant about it. Like we were like, just find a name.
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
For a second, it's like Kalshi. And like, then she found the Kalshi.com and her sister bought it because we had no money. So her sister bought it for us.
It was expensive?
It was like $1,000.
Okay, so cheap.
Yeah, we had no money.
Yeah.
So it's like, then, Michael gives us an interview for YC. We do the interview and then he takes us. And it's interesting because I always ask Michael about. So okay, well now we took YC. I called my mom. I was like, I really don't know what to do because like I really didn't think we were literally just gonna say they're gonna refuse us and we go to work. So what do I do now? And my mom was like, it was like this whole like fuck and like, and then she was like, maybe like do YC, and then if you manage to raise money above a certain threshold, they had a threshold for raising. I think that was the success. It means the company is going to be successful.
Yeah.
But like, then like you maybe commit to it, and like otherwise, like
What was the threshold?
$2 million.
$2 million.
Or not even. At first, it was like 1, and then it went up over time because we realized you could. But what I mean, it was like if you raise any money. I mean, for us, $1 million at the time was insane.
Infinite money.
Insane. Like it's like So anyways, so like we go to YC and like we delay this sort of me starting like the full-time job. And our YC experience was really tough because like everyone was like tracking KPIs and users and talking to users, and we were just like
focus on the illegal part of it.
Yeah, we were like we're focused on the illegal part of it. Like it's not allowed, and it's literally not allowed. So what do we do? And so like I knew that I wanted to do it in the US. February 2019, we started like looking for lawyers and like all of that for the US. And like, Luan and I called 65 lawyers in one day. Literally, we just packed them all, like, literally, and both of us were on meetings the whole day. Every lawyer that touched financial services. We want to like do this legal thing where you can like basically trade on any events in the US. Dude, like the extent to which this sounded outrageous. Like it was insane, It was like as ridiculous as like telling people like, like some really like hot contested topic, and you're just like a random dude showing up out of nowhere, and I like, like I want to break the two-party system in America. It was that one, like that reaction. They're like okay, kid, like
let me teach you something.
Like cool, yeah. I mean, it sounds cool, but like not for me. Good luck with it, And like, dude, 65 lawyers said no. Like every single one was like, dude, I don't want to take your money because like this is stupid. That was the whole point of Demo Day. And they're like, yeah, we're sorry. And it's like, why didn't you tell me beforehand? Like that's horrible. So I remember I sent a text to Michael that day. It was a Friday. And I was like, yeah, like I think it's over, basically I was like, hey Michael, can you chat? Like I think it's over. And he's like, yeah, I'll call you, like let's chat first thing on Monday, come to the office. And it was done. So we're like super depressed. I'm like, okay, let me just go, like gotta start preparing for my job. Again, like this thing does not work out. We did give it our best shot, and like we'll go from there. And then Saturday, Sunday, and then it's a typical thing that happened to one night. And I think this is like key for how the company, dude, no matter how hard we got punched, and we have taken on like heavy punches, like truly like gnarly punches. We would take it, we'd get very upset for an hour or two, and then we just like, we had a reflex stand back up and just fucking go. So we like open our laptop, like, okay, let's just think, okay, so what do we have? Like, dude, literally think about like, this meme of the like guy on coke who has like conspiracy theorying, like, dude, that was our apartment. Like literally I started putting we started putting like papers, like, Alderney has this sort of, now we have an incorporate, like we have Kalshi EU Limited in Alderney, and we have a bank account open with the director. Maybe we could use that to parlay. And so I started figuring out a bunch of things, and I realized there's another license in Curacao that actually like
Curacao, wow.
Yeah, it's like that actually like it usually takes 6 months, but actually the long haul is like, you need a public director. And then I called some random dude. So we start connecting jurisdictional arbitrage basically. And like, he's like, yeah, I think if you wire me $15,000 now. And by the way, we had wired like 70,000 for the Alderney license. So we had no money. Like, this was basically it. This was like, I'll give you something. And then at the same time, I was talking to Alex Bouaziz, and like we're pretty close. It's interesting because we're the two like closest during the batch, and like it ended up being the two main companies from the batch, which these things are also interesting in certain ways. But like, and then Alex was like, dude, I actually have a guy in the UK that's looking to like sell his license, and he's kind of desperate. So what about you take it? He's like, well, I talked to him. He's like, I want to sell it for 100K. And then we came up, I'm still unsure about that setup, but like, I was like, what if you loan me the license? So I pay 15K, I negotiate that guy 10K and then 15K to lend the sort of UK license. And we come to on Monday with Michael, and like, he's ready to basically help us like wind down and like, And I'm like, actually, we have 2 licenses now. It's like, we have 2 licenses and like, let's go right. So then we go on demo day and then we end up raising, it's like 2 and some.
Was it easy or hard?
I went on stage. I was like, look, I think there's a 1% chance of us being able to legalize this in the US. If we do, it's going to be massive. And here's the traction of how fast we have moved on legalizing stuff outside of the US. It was not very hard. It was fine. Not the easiest, but like not the hardest. A lot of the brand chip VCs didn't want to touch it because they're like, what are you talking about?
Who said yes back then?
A lot of angels, like Saurabh from DST, just like purposefully seeked me, and he's like, this is going to be big, and I don't know if it's going to work, but if you do it. I don't know if you ever met Fethi and Cem from the Turkish guys.
No.
Anil from Soma. I mean, Oliver Samwer, like the GFC guys. A few others, but like, they were like, yeah, let's go for it. I mean, Ali Partovi from Neo also. And then like, I remember I talked to Michael a bunch about like, why'd you take, I mean, it was one of those things where he's like the idea was so outrageous. Like the whole thing that you're talking about was so ridiculous, like so far removed from reality that I was like, I have to take a shot on this. Like, it's like, I have to see how this plays out. Like, and then the second thing is like, there was some sort of demeanor to you guys that was like this, like, you always find a way. There's this always sort of like, always find a way. You will exhaust and juice like, and honestly, it was one of those things, like, I didn't really see that in ourselves at the time, but like there were people like Michael or Ali Partovi, like that saw it more than we did. And I don't know if you had that like in the early days, like, this type of person that believes in you more than you do. Because they have seen more. They have seen how kind of things play out. Yeah, pattern match. And like, you don't know, you're like still insecure a bit, like you don't know, like, but they saw it. They were like,
and dude, in your trader mind, the fucking expected outcome of this shit was hard, right?
It was terrible. So I had an existential crisis every day. I'm like, what am I doing with my life, dude?
Yeah.
Like, it's a 0% for so long.
Yeah.
Dude, the chances were so bad. Like,
so bad.
Like, it's like a 1%. Honestly, it was a sub 1% chance. All of our investors believe it was sub 1%. Yeah. Justin Mateen decided to invest really quickly. He was also one of the ones. He wanted to do the whole round, by the way. Dude, Justin is insane.
Justin's amazing.
Like, but he's always right. And like he was like, I remember he had like a very simple question. It's like, what are you going to do when the government doesn't let you do it? Like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I didn't have a good answer. I'm like, I think I'm just going to, I was uncomfortable. I was like, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to either like, I'm going to keep going until either the company dies or like they give it to me. And I think again, he was also pattern matching. Like in his view is like, yeah, there's like a certain type of founder that just doesn't have a plan B, that they'll have to figure something out. And so we started the company. Like that was really kind of like, okay, we're going to go for it. We're going to do it. And like, we had a long conversation like, well, we're going to go on a few years journey on figuring out how to legalize this in the US without launching a product, without doing anything. And then that was really when it kind of started. And like, I was very long, basically.
This episode of HD and HD is brought to you by a brand that's close to my heart, Brex. When we started Brex, it wasn't just about creating another financial product. It was about solving the real gritty challenges that founders and startups face every day. Building something from the ground up is hard enough without having to navigate clunky legacy banks with endless fees. That's why Brex is the financial stack that scales with you, no matter where you are on your journey. From maximizing runway to earning yield on your cash, Brex was designed to make every dollar count so you can focus on what really matters, building your dream. So whether you're just getting started or you're ready to take on the next big thing, Brex has your back. Check it out and see why the world's most innovative startups like Anthropic, Scale AI, and Robinhood trust Brex.
So look, give me some time. So you started, this is 2019.
Yeah.
When were you able to launch in the US, the first market?
It was a bit like incremental, but like the properly launched end of 2022. We launched the first market in 21, but like we couldn't do, like it was very, like think of it as an alpha or a beta. Like it was really not like.
So it was like 3 years of like just grinding like on legal stuff.
3 years and a half of literally just pure regulatory.
Man, that sounds like hell.
It was truly like people don't understand. This is the thing that like I always like. I wasn't gonna bid in another company. Like every time we looked at pivoting or like doing something else, like that's not what we started a company.
Yeah, you would have been a trader if it was gonna be that,
like,
right?
And then like now I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna accept the fact that if I had done the 2 years at Citadel, I'm like I'm fucking poor as fuck right now.
Yeah.
And like, you cannot, like, you
All
cannot.
your buddies are probably making millions of
like,
dollars, right?
like, I'm like, dude, like my life sucks. Like, I'm like, literally like homeless pretty much. Like, I mean, it fucking sucked. So it's like, it had to
I
work.
remember, like, you guys were living with Gabe and
I'm living with Gabe and Lucas.
Yeah.
Like, it was like horrible. I mean, like, it had to work.
yeah.
Like, we had to make it work. We had to make it work.
Dude, I will tell you, at that time, I didn't think it was gonna work.
No one thought it was gonna work.
I didn't think it was gonna work.
Like, our investors, no one thought it was gonna work. No one thought it was gonna work. I'm telling you, like, no, not a single soul, no matter what they say, thought it was gonna work.
Yeah.
Like, there were a few people that were like, look, the logic I have here is like, if it works, it's gonna be really big, and if anybody's ever gonna figure it out, it's probably these two like crazy people. Like, I think that's a little bit how the investors, they're like, these people are probably like going to kill themselves like to make it happen. Like, it's either they die or it happens. And I think it was true. Like, we were so dead set on this thing that, like,
I'm just thinking, dude, it's so much easier to be the investor in this situation.
it's
right?
so much easier, dude, because like, it's like you have them and you have another, and like, look, if Kalshi rips, amazing,
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much easier to be
dude.
the investor for sure. I always say that, like, and
like, dude, you can just have like an expected outcome thing, It's like, hey, yeah, like, look, if it works, it's huge. If it doesn't, etc., here's some money. I'll go chill out, and that, you're fucking grinding away.
Dude, like, it was, but like, it was important for us because like, there's a, there was an alternative path, which was basically like, we could have gone offshore and done it like, not really legally, and like, sort of like, there's like a lot of companies like Bovada or like a bunch of companies that sort of like do it from the outside. Like, they do it offshore. It's not really legal. And like, they like cater to Americans. And like, there was that option, but like, I just didn't want to build that. Like, I wanted to find, like, when I think about this is the legal, like, this is the universal financial markets of what's legal and what's allowed. I didn't want to go around that. I didn't want to build it like a front end betting casino or site. I wanted to expand the universal financial market. Like, that was the thing that excited me at the core. Is like, financial markets could be much deeper, much more, much bigger than what they currently are. They have way more potential. We could apply them to things that are more exciting and more relatable to people. Like, they had legal problems.
Yeah, I think I remember meeting an old guy in Brazil that owns a big family business, big wholesaler. And I'm like, why don't you take your company public? And he's like, well, because the stock market is a casino.
Is there a purpose for this market to exist beyond just the speculation? So in for example, like, grain futures were at the time, like, they were legalized in 1905 by a Supreme Court decision. And it was the same thing. Some people were saying these are gambling because people are betting on like the price of grain and speculating. So this is more like gambling. But then the other people were saying no, because some people are hedging or like using the prices to figure out. The futures were important because they would tell people how much they could sell their stuff at, their grains at in the fall. So they decide how much to invest. It makes the economy more efficient and we can make better decisions. But the point here is like, it's about whether there's like kind of economic purpose. And it's like, these things, I mean, obviously Brexit happening or not, that's like.
Yeah, instead of having like the 6 trades at Goldman Sachs, the options and the swaps,
there's a better product.
You can just do in that.
Yeah,
you don't have to
it's also very relatable to people, and it also impacts a lot of people. Like Brexit happening is not one. It's not like it's not a non-economic event. It's a very much so an economic event. It has drastic implications, right? Same with the election, like, and so 3.5 years finally launched, and our first set of markets with the CFTC was like 18 months, like brutal, like just actual, like think of harshest environment possible. Everything was taking forever. The regulator wanted to kill us at every step of the way, all of that. And then.
But what was the process to launch a market?
They have to approve everything and like, and.
Maybe give some overview of like, what's the FTC? Just like a quick kind of.
There's in the US, there's SEC and CFTC. SEC is like everything that's like securities, like things that relate to a single company.
What did they tell you when you showed up there?
So we found one lawyer, Jeff Bandman, who was an ex-CFTC guy. He's a character. And he was the one lawyer that was willing to work with us. Like, after 65, Luana talked to, literally, like, it was so indirect, the friend of a lawyer. Like, literally, that's how much we've pushed in the network. Like, it was like a 5th degree removed from Luana. She found this Jeff guy who was like, I'm down to work on this because I believe in this so much that I'll help you. I think it's probably not going to work, but I'll help you. And he started putting us in the front of the CFTC. So it helped to have someone that they know that had some degree of credibility because he got us the foot. He got us in the door. And then we started pitching them, and then they would be like, yeah, like, it's not happening. And then I'm like, why? And they're like, well, here's the 10 reasons. And then we go and we spend the next 48 hours writing huge memos, like researching everything on how we solve every single one of those reasons. And like, okay, here's another 20. And then it was 3 years of that.
Wow.
3 years and a half of that.
If ChatGPT existed, that would have
Yeah, I mean, that would have been easier, so much easier. Like, dude, I spent one day, like there was a point where I spent 27 days straight in a room without exiting the room, eating the same thing every day, writing a legal memo, like a 70-page legal memorandum. It's still there. Like it is the foundation of how prediction markets are regulated in the US.
It's fucking insane, dude.
I did nothing, dude. I like exited that room at the time as if, dude, like a caveman. I didn't know how to like talk to people after that. Like
their beer.
Yeah, it was
like,
horrible, dude. It was horrible. I'm telling you, like I had not seen any. You
should find a picture of that.
I ate Pakwan, like the Indian place, and like from Tenderloin and SF for like 27 days straight.
Wow.
I mean, I was so unhealthy, but like then we got it regulated, so it worked. And then we launched the exchange and started working, and like that was the first. We expanded now. Like there was a true expansion of the universe of financial markets, which is like now there's legal way to trade and like buy positions on events, like buy shares of things. But then even then, like they would block a lot of things, and like so it was a constant like war of attrition. You slowly expand. We kept pushing the boundary to slowly expand, and we expanded, and then there was one key thing that we wanted to do, which is the election market. And Elizabeth Warren did not want the election market to exist.
And I remember at that point, you guys were launching, but there wasn't a ton of volume, right?
No, because like,
why was that?
It's just so hard because you have to like regulate it first. So you have like the regulatory piece is in and of itself as hard, if not harder than product market fit. You have that like, you know what I mean? Like
regulatory fit was the product market. That was
in some ways, but you still have to find product market fit, right? Like, it's like.
Yeah, it was still like, you need to get it legal and then find the markets that people want to bet on.
Now we have the shot at going and finding product market fit, right? Like, and like people don't like usually companies already have enough, like, they take 5 years to find product market fit. And that's already like an excruciating problem. We had to first get the legal ability to find product market fit, then get the shot. And then we finally thought we got the shot, but not really, because now you're finding product market fit, but like, you have a massive carriage on your back. Monster carriage. Every time you want to try something, you have to ask
the regulator don't want you to succeed.
They don't want us to find product market fit. That's the whole point. Like the last admin did not want us to find product market. They want us to die. They want to try and shutting us down at every step of the way. So it was like this situation where like, you're trying to find product market fit, but like every single tiny little thing that you're trying to do, they're blocking you. And they're hampering you. And death by 1,000 paper cuts. And no, not this market, not this market. Well, but this is the market that people want. No. And every market that people want, they wouldn't let us do. And so it was this constant, like slowly expanding. So we started growing, but it was tough and like very harsh environment. The regulator wouldn't let us do anything. And then here's the last sort of really difficult piece to this is it's a network effect business. There's supply and demand problem. So imagine you're trying to like break the chicken and the egg. So enough liquidity and enough demand problem while trying to do all of that. There's not enough like momentum behind it. There's not enough sort of like, what do you call it? Like acceleration and like, there's not enough velocity behind the thing because the regulator is making it so that you cannot have enough velocity. So, 70% of my time is making sure that they're not killing us. And 30% is like talking to users and trying to find product market fit. But then that talking to users is not, you cannot just talk to demand. You have to talk to market makers. So you're trying to figure out the guests and the hosts at the same time, or like the writers and the dashboard is already like a really hard, like. Yeah,
even without any regulation, it would be really hard.
It would be really hard because marketplace businesses are already fucking really difficult.
Hard. Yeah.
Like there's product market fit. There's product market fit in a marketplace business. And then now you have product market fit in a marketplace business with a regulator trying to kill you. Like I think we took on the most sort of like, I believe there's like hard mode and like, we took the hardest mode basically. Yeah. And our gut feeling is the election market would be the thing that basically like gives enough liftoff energy for the whole thing to come. Yeah. Like, and obviously I didn't mention also the education.
There are other proof points in the world, right? Of like places you can bet on elections.
Yeah, but I also thought like a legal election market in the US will just rip. Yeah. Like, and like, I think that like, and rip from a variety perspective, it would bring enough lift-off energy. So demand comes in. I would be able to acquire customers for enough customers cheaply. It would enable me to educate in mass about what this is because there's an education thing. Like financial services, people don't like to put their money on new things. It's very hard to onboard people. That's why it's very hard to build a brokerage business. And it's harder to do it when something that's people don't understand. They don't know what this is. What am I putting money on?
Totally.
And then enough to get enough supply, like get enough market maker traction, get enough traction so that people coalesce around Kalshi. And so we started engaging about the election market in early 22, even before we really launched. And the regulator was like, yeah, maybe. And then at the end of 22, after spending a year, actually late 2021 when we started, and then end of 2022, after spending a year and a half to do it, the CFTC blocked it. They shut it down officially, like formally. Or like basically we had to withdraw. They forced us to withdraw. That was brutal. That was, I think, one of the hardest. I mean, all the other parts of the company were really hard, but that was a really uniquely hard because.
Do you think you were going to win at that one?
I don't know, man. I thought that like we were underdogs, but I thought it was close to 50-50.
Yeah.
And 3-2, we lost on the vote. Even though one of the commissioners had said that they were going to vote with us, but she voted against. And this is the expected outcome thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the expected outcome was pretty good. That was the right strategy. I still believe it. The proof is still that now there finally.
Yeah.
But the variance, we got the bad side of the coin. We got tails. We didn't get heads. And what happens in these moments is like, dude, everyone around you. Like there are some investors, by the way, to their credit, like Alfred, Michael, Ali Partovi, like, they were always believer in the company. They never like wavered. They were always like, all in with us. But everyone around you, the investors, your people, your friends, like the employees, dude, like they just start pointing at you, not like exactly, but it's like, well, the strategy, we shouldn't have focused on that. The strategy was wrong. And, some people leave and they're like they start leaving you, like employees leave and you get like a bunch of like attrition and, or like turnover. And I think like belief in the company at that point was like basically like in the shitter, like close to zero, people. And so that was really hard. Like I remember that stand up where we like had to tell the company, like we didn't get it. That's what we bet the farm on. And like, it's been a year and a half process. We didn't get it. And, there are some people a lot of people left. We had to also do a layoff. It was a brutal time. Like early 23, like it was just dark, like full on darkness. And like, we just didn't know what to do with the business, and we had raised a decent amount of money to basically do the regulatory thing. We had raised like, I think at that point, like $100 million, right? Like, so you can't sell, like, you just like you had nothing. So
yeah, totally.
So it was hard. And then, then like a week later, like Luana was like, we try again.
It's amazing.
Like, it's just like, but that's Luana, dude. Like, it's like insane. And like, maybe I love that part. Dude, she is the most stubborn human on earth. Like, it's unfucking believable. And like, it's like truly like wake up, like wakes up and like we try again. It's like, what are you talking about? Like,
It's crazy, dude. It's fucking insane.
Like it's like, imagine like,
yeah.
And like, I'm not telling the board, but
you tell the board.
Yeah, you're gonna tell the board, dude. Like, I kid you not, like goes up the board and it's like, yeah, like, the 2023 plan. Like, we're gonna go for the election market again.
Oh my god! Dude.
Because the 2022 was the midterms, right? So we missed the midterms window. So that's stand up, which was the day before the midterms. Like, it's not gonna happen by the midterm.
We're gonna get the presidential one.
Yeah, just like we're gonna get the presidential one, dude. Like, imagine like you got hit so hard right now, and we're like, whatever, we're gonna work for the one in 2 years from now. Like,
oh my god, man,
the level of like actual grit this requires. I don't think I have it. Like Luana, I think a lot of Luana pushed for the company. Like Luana pushed. This was the main thing with Luana. Like, I think she will push
till the end,
no matter what, dude.
Yeah.
Like literally, no matter what. It's like no matter how on the ground, how ridiculous. Like, dude. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound?
It's insane. It's fucking insane. I'm putting myself here, but I would have given up years ago.
It's like doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's like completely insane. And like,
where do you think that comes from for her?
I think very similar. Like, she was ballerina. She was at the Bolshoi school. Like, they were like, whipping them in the school. Like, like completely like destroy the kind of like person. Like ballet for years, and then like she pivoted out of ballet. She was like. She had lots of times where she was alone without her parents, like growing up. So like, she has a monster chip on her shoulder. Like Luana, like monster. Like, it's like, like she wants to win at all costs. Like just and so, and Luana has a little bit more. So I'm more calculated, sort of like, risk measured. Luana has a little bit more of the irrational, like
Just faith.
Faith, yeah, like delusional faith. Like I don't like. We're gonna get the election market, you know. Like why? Do you know what? Like we're gonna get regulated first. It was like also why? You know why? Like what? It was like I mean, we just talked to the regulator. It's been 3 months, and everything they say is like it's not happening. Like they made it very clear. And now the election market saying that, you know, it's like ridiculous. So 2023, the board was like, okay, we'll start trying to find product market fit in other places, which we really couldn't. But like we focus on the election market. Or like sorry, we try the election market again. End of 2023 gets rejected again. Then again, the same thing. Luana was like, well, okay, we're gonna sue our own regulator. Like,
It's so insane, man.
yeah. Like that was now we're getting into the territory of like, you know.
This is like you went from like grit to fucking insanity.
Yeah. Like
you know?
it turned insane. Like that was insane. And like
I remember having a conversation about this. I think it was with Louise that works for you guys.
Yeah.
When you guys put that, and I was like, actually, like, what do they have in their heads, dude? Like, what is it that they have in their heads that they think they're gonna like sue the government and win? Like, are they fucking crazy? Like, are they delusional? Like, just help explain me. You know, they seem like smart people. Like, how are they doing this?
I mean, I don't know. I'm telling you, I didn't sleep for weeks before that decision. Like when we were making it, and like, I talked to the board, and like, Alpha and Michael were like we've never like that doesn't work. You know, it's like, well, not even that. It's like suing your own regulator. There's like bad ideas, terrible ideas, like and then there's like suing your own regulator, right? like you know what I mean? It's like suing your own regulator is like, because regulators have a lot of latitude. They can pull your license. They can like kill you in many ways. Like they can like make your life absolutely miserable.
They can sue you back, you know?
I mean, they can make your life absolutely miserable. They can like kill the company. Like, and so, man, I remember like, I was like, I was like, yeah, we're suing it. Like, she'd like go to the board, we're suing. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. There's all these reasons. Like, they're going to block all, like, we're trying to launch the brokers. I mean, the license, like the approval to launch the brokers, they're going to block it. They're going to block the clearinghouse, which we need because our old clearinghouse was bought by FTX, and FTX is trying to kill us. And now it's bought by Max, who's also trying to kill us. So we have a third party that's trying to kill us. And now they're not going to give us our clearinghouse. Like, we will die if we make this decision. And she's like, we're suing. And then I remember Michael and Alfred in that board meeting were like, look, honestly, like we don't know what to tell you. We're like completely way out of our depth here. Like we can, like, this is the type of thing that we don't, every single part of our intuition and data and pattern matching is saying, absolutely not. And then I remember like, no, then they said like, look, every time you pitched us on something like this, magic ended up happening, and it's not the first time. So like, yeah, we made the decision. So we sued the regulator, and then all the things that we were worried about that we talked about in that board meeting happened, dude. No clearinghouse, no brokers. Like, we didn't get the broker approval till January. It took us 3 years to finally be able to launch, like, a bunch of the broker partners. And then death by 1,000 paper cuts. Every piece of, I mean, I discovered recently after the transition that there were like 11 enforcement actions personally against me. Like me. They were gonna actually drag me. And like I'm not doing anything wrong. Like everything we did was actually played by the book. We're trying to do the right thing. Again, this is the set of legal. We're trying to expand it, not actually go around it. We never wanted to do anything illegal, ever. That's a core ethos of the company, because in financial services and healthcare, you do that,
you're fucked.
You're fucked. Yeah. At some point, you're going to get fucked. Things are going to go very wrong. We saw it with FTX.
And you may go to jail, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about jail. It's like, it's wrong for the customers. You saw it with FTX, and it's like, also, institutions are not gonna trust you. They're not gonna work with you. And so, and then like, yeah, I mean, obviously after that, the rest is history. Like we won the election lawsuit.
How, dude? How did you win? Like,
we thought we were right on the law like the whole time. We really felt confident we were right on the law.
And the judge, who was the judge?
It's like Judge Cobb, who was like actually like a Biden appointee. So when we got the judge, we were like, there's a Biden appointee that needs to rule against the Biden administration. Which is.
And what did the judge say that CFTC was wrong? Like, what was the summary judgment?
I don't see how this is gambling. There's real economic purpose for elections, which we made a very strong case for. It's important.
Yeah.
It's not the same as like rolling a dice in a casino. Like, it's just not. And then, it was actually more complicated than that, because we won in September 7th. Dude, I remember like we got the oral hearing on May, and then like the lawyer that was doing it is this guy, Yakov Roth, just an absolute killer. Like, and we interviewed everybody, like Scalia, it was amazing, everyone. But like this man, like the reason I took this man is because like, dude, I don't think there's anyone on this planet that wants to put the federal government in check more than this man. You know, that type of lawyer that like no money,
This
not
is purpose in life.
it's purpose in life. I want like, it's like the technical, like I want, you know, the government to abide by the Administrative Procedural Act, you know, like, which is basically like how much leeway do federal regulators, did they overstep on something? And I want to make sure they don't overstep. And so I was like, this man cannot not lose this, you know, he cannot lose this lawsuit. Like he will personally not sleep over this lawsuit. And it was true. He felt it as much as us, which was so important. But he had the whole hearing in May, which went well. And then we didn't know, you don't know when the decision is going to come. And we didn't even know if it was going to come by the election day, right? So it was the whole thing. And then I remember like every time he called me once and like I freaked out. I was like, wait, did we get a decision? He's like, no, I was just calling about something related. And I told him like, don't call me. Don't ever call me, basically, until you have a decision. And then, dude, I remember like I was sitting in the office and I see Yaakov Roth on my phone. Dude, I literally felt like, you know, like a physical reaction. I like my entire body got numb, you know? And like, I literally couldn't pick up the phone. Like the guy next to me, like Rainer was like, dude, someone is calling you. And then like I pick up the phone and like he said, we won.
How did that feel, man?
Dude, I don't know. I was like, I screamed crazy.
Where were you?
In the middle of the office. I screamed like crazy, like literally like a manic, like, you know. And then people were like, wait, what happened? And then I was like, we won. Dude, the office, like chairs were flying, you know. And then, you know, so that was like, we won. And then, dude, the CFTC, what they do is they move to appeal the decision. And again, they're hell bent on not letting us do this. Like, even though they lost and like we're right on the law. So they basically file an appeal, emergency appeal.
Why do you think they're so...
Dude, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like the whole lawfare situation the last few years was real. I think, I just think there's a camp of the, you know, like Elizabeth Warren and others that just really hated these markets. And like, I think they were trying to please them. And so they moved to do an emergency appeal. And it was gnarly because what they asked for the appeal is like, let's appeal the decision, but so we'll go through the appeal, which takes like 9 months, but let's stay the decision from the district court in the meantime. So can we pause on the decision in the district court? Because they're like, if we allow this, there's going to be disastrous consequences on democracy. So pause till the appeal makes its decision, which would mean we would miss on the election, which defeat the whole purpose. Now we have to wait another 4 years. Which, you know.
What have you waited another 4 years?
Dude, look, I don't know. That was really, that 3 week was so hard, dude. Like I it was so gut wrenching. Like it was the worst. I mean, it was so difficult because then we're like, okay, fine, let's just do, and then you have to do an oral hearing for the stay to decide. Like you go and like debate with the judge. Like you have to do an oral hearing with the judges on whether the stay was going to get upheld. So we were in the DC Circuit of Appeal, which is the most, I would say, like progressive court. So it's not very good for our type of case. Obviously, the conservative would be like more easy with this sort of case, free money, free markets, and you know, progressive would prefer like, you know, you have 11 judges and you have 3 picks out of the 11. So there was like 84 combinations pretty much that we could get. We ranked all the combination of the judges we could get. It just like most probably to be amenable to this case, to most probably to be against us, or not against us, but like the ones that would least philosophically align with our case. Dude, we got the 84th.
Wow.
Dude, we were like, okay. And then we go into the oral hearing and they batter us. Like they just, you know, how is this like, what? So dude, there was like a 3-week period after that. So that happened September 14th. And then the decision came October 7th. There's 3 period after that. Dude, I thought it's done. You know, they took too long. Obviously they know that this matters for us in terms of timing. So like, we need this to happen ASAP. And if they're taking a long time, that means that, you know, they're just going to stay. They're going to let it be. That was maybe one of the hardest 3 weeks. Like, it was just like, after the win, like getting that, and it's like now we might
just had the high and you're like,
just lose it all again. And like now, I mean, you know, it was like, dude, like, I think this would kill a company. Like, you know, how are you going to stand up from that? And then we won on October 7th. I was in London. Like I had given up. I was like in London to see my brother, and like I got the call and like we won. I'm like, what? And I had given up. Literally, I was like, dude, I'm so done. Like, you know, we did everything we could. And then, dude, like like next few weeks after that, were insane. It's like the most parabolic, like.
What was it like? What was it like? What was the high of when
it was like, I'm okay. I got like we won 3-0, by the way, which was like crazy. But like I was like, we were given this opportunity. I will just literally give it my all. Like I will literally. I mean, dude, I was showering once every 3 days. Like
Yeah.
I'm admitting that in public. Like screw it. I mean, it was just like I am going to give every single inch of me for this thing. Like and not just for the scale of Kalshi. I just wanted the world to see that these things can be done in a safe way and like are actually a force for good. And we were committed to like we were only going to do it legally because that's the only way that we could sustainably build this business. Like that's the only way that this sticks, right? If you do it from the outside, it's not going to be what we're seeing this year, right? And so we needed to deliver that we needed to deliver that to our industry. We really felt like we need to deliver that to these markets. And like, yeah, I mean, obviously we got to the top of the app store within like a few weeks. The day of the election, we had 500 million unique site visits. And It was just like insane.
Was the infrastructure even ready for that?
Yeah, the team just locked in.
Yeah.
Locked in like crazy. We had other issues actually, because one of the issues, our third-party clearinghouse, which we talked about, the night before listing, and they knew, obviously, they've been with us with this whole thing, 9 p.m. They asked me for a call at 9 p.m. And they're like, we want $30 million or something like that. I forgot the exact number. And like some like lifetime revenue on certain markets and a cap of 5,000 traders per day to list the election market.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, these things are just like,
just keeps coming, dude. It just fucking keeps coming. Like you don't get a break, man.
Like, finally, and like, and then, but we were lucky enough that 2 weeks before we actually got the approval for the clearinghouse because we had threatened to sue about the clearinghouse as well. And they were like, because they missed their window. So they're like, they gave it to us. And so we transitioned in flight over like 48 hours. We literally launched the market while transitioning. So we had to build a new ecosystem from scratch to launch the election. And then we like marketed and scaled the user base like crazy, like absolutely crazy. And I mean, it went really well. I mean, like obviously the company is at a completely different scale. The brand got mainstream. This year we kind of entered sports also legally at the federal level in all 50 states. And the business has obviously been like, doing incredibly, incredibly well. And it's amazing because like we're now the largest in prediction markets by like quite a margin. But the other amazing thing is like it's mainstream. People are talking about prediction markets. It's a real, like we've actually created an industry, right? Like and like actually like legalized an industry, then took it mainstream, and now it's like a real thing. And it's awesome. Like there's a lot of big companies and big players that want to get into the space now. It's amazing. It's just like kind of early days crypto. And I think 10 years from now, prediction markets are larger than the stock market. I really believe it. I really, really believe it. And
what do you think needs to happen for that to be true?
More adoption. Like now the flywheel is kicking. Like we have a very strong liquidity flywheel. Like liquidity brings liquidity. And so just need to keep driving that flywheel.
But is that what was missing, right? From the early days before you have elections?
Yeah,
was it liquidity?
The flywheel. You need enough, like, it's like you need liftoff, right?
Yeah.
Like there's path dependence to these things, right? It's not like how two companies with the same idea, one of it gets liftoff and the other doesn't. Yeah. It's not just about the idea, right? You have to compound enough to.
Yeah, the momentum.
Yeah, especially with network effect-y type businesses.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because it's like, we were very stubborn and like focused on our approach, like on the vision from the start, day one, no pivot, like we're going to do the same thing. And number two is like, we were very, very kind of like true to our principles, which is we are going to do it. Like it's nice to see that our principles worked, which is like, we're going to do it like regulated and legal first. And instead of like going around, we will change the system. And we managed to change it. Like, and I think that was very important for us. Because if we didn't change the system, then we didn't think that this could get to the scale that it would get.
Man, I swear to God, I'm like listening to you tell the story. The last time I felt what I'm feeling right now was like literally like hearing the Elon book, and like him going through Tesla and SpaceX and all the challenges that's literally the last time I felt like what I felt.
We went through a lot. I mean, really, like it's like, and this is why like, it's like, I don't know. I think at this point, if people from the inside understand why it's easy to bet on Kalshi, and it's not like we're so committed to this. We're so committed to this. Like I mean, after going through all of that, it's like I will go through anything for this company. Like, right?
Yeah, dude, like after all that, now you're going to the moon, man. Like,
yeah, like I'm going to do anything for this company, right? And so it's like, we have suffered a lot, like true suffering, and like, and it's a different type of suffering. It's not like, hey, users are not adopting the product. It's like you can't do anything about it. You're shackled by the government, and like that's a different type of suffering, you know. Yeah. But we have we have a lot to do now. But I mean, this year has been insane. Like the numbers are like, I keep forecasting, and I keep like drastically overperforming the forecast. I mean, the company. I mean, I think the company is going to do like 100x this year.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's insane. That's absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, it's like, and like it's not stopping next. It's not like, oh, 100x. I feel like there's a 3x next year, 3 to 4x. So it's like, you know.
And what are the markets now that people are like most excited about?
Politics is big, sports is huge. Culture is growing really fast. The amazing thing about Kalshi is like we're accessing we expanded the universe of financial markets, which expands the TAM of financial markets. You know, a lot of our customers, you ask them, you trade financial markets, they're like, no, like this is not for me. I'd lose. I don't have an edge there. I wouldn't. You know, I don't gamble.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I do Kalshi, and it's because like it's a financial market for what I know. It's like something for me. You know, it could be culture and entertainment because I care about these different. Like I care about what Taylor Swift is gonna do and what album she's releasing and how successful it's gonna be. I care about the weather. You know, there's like we see so many people that like it. Like I love seeing it so much. It's like someone discovers Kalshi. It's like the first thing I got to tell my dad about this. And, they bring their dad and now they're like, like trying to predict the weather on Kalshi. And like, that's like sort of an activity they do together. Like there's a people that would never touch any of these things that now can be brought into this and understand the power of markets and like engage with it in a more meaningful way, right? Like the person at Trivia that thinks they're right about everything. Like, hey, you can put money where your mouth is if you know so much.
Yeah.
Why do you have a position on this? And if you don't, then why are you speaking? Why are you talking?
It is also replacing polling, right?
Yeah, I think that like, wouldn't necessarily replace it, but like it would it would make polling better, and polling also makes the market better. It's like it's the market incorporates all the data sources, including polling.
Yeah.
Right. But polls are obviously have issues, right? And the way I think about this, the reason why this is like I think such a fundamental idea is like it helps humans. Like markets help human calibrate better, right? So you take the debate that we have about the world from the plane of emotional, subjective debate, which is like, I think you're dumb, climate change is 100% real, to you telling me, no, you're the one who's dumb because climate change is 0% real, like, which is the current rhetoric. It's super polarized, like very emotionally charged. And it takes the debate from that to the plane of like objective, market-based, mathematical truth, right? Like the minute you tell those two people, okay, like how about you put some money on it? You think it's 40%, 50% odds. Now we're talking and so you're pricing these different things. And it's like, Brex is, no way Brex is happening. For sure Trump is winning. For sure Trump. No, like there's a 65% chance, 62% chance of Trump winning the election. And that was the truth. And markets do a very good job at doing that. And I think over time, as you kind of educate people to basically start engaging with this, like we can become smarter. Like humanity will get smarter because like instead of just debating about all these different random things, like we have some skin in the game, and we trust people that have some skin in the game more than people that don't. And this is the way kind of I think it's like, okay, we're expanding the universe of financial markets, but the big way, like the mission, the way that this kind of really delivers the full kind of blown thing is like we are now thinking more critically about our future and making better decisions about our future, because of prediction markets. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that world. I really, really think so. Like people are already looking at prediction markets for a lot of different things. We have candidates in the cabinet during their confirmation hearings. They were looking at the odds based on what they were saying, if that was like improving their odds or like lowering their odds. So there was like, they were improving their sort of like, does that make sense? Like if you're a political candidate, you can see, oh, that worked, that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's better than polling because
like real-time feedback.
It's real-time feedback, exactly. Yeah. And it's amazing because now you have a way to price everything in real time. And I think we're very well underway now. I think we're getting closer.
Yeah. And there's going to be so many second order effects to this, right? And like you're describing the political one is going to be like, wow, like how is that going to change the way they campaign, right? Like how is that going to, just change the way people operate if you can get this kind of like real-time feedback?
I think it's that. I mean, I think, look, I'm going to make a statement. It's going to sound a little bit crazy, but Kalshi is more accurate at predicting earthquakes than any other alternative.
Wow.
It's not very accurate.
Just more than the rest.
Right. And there's a little bit of this sort of like, you want to promote your industry type thing, right? Like, if there's no earthquakes, then, the earthquake industry is not very relevant. But my point is, like, pundits have self-interests, right? And so, they're not always kind of as accurate, whereas markets just don't lie. They don't have any self-interest. All you have to believe is that people want to make money and not lose money, which is a very easy thing to believe, right? Like, and so I think this is going to be a much better way to engage with the news over time, to basically like think critically about the world, like understand the world better than the news itself, than pundits and polls and any other mechanism.
It's amazing, man. And so now well, how was your mom during this whole thing?
It's interesting because, like, she's as stressed as before. I mean, it's. I mean, my mom now tells me, like, you should slow down, like, and there's a lot on your plate. But moms don't care about this stuff. It's interesting. Moms care about, like, hey, like, what'd you eat for breakfast? Did you eat enough for breakfast? And did you go to a dentist this month? Like, it's the still, it's the same.
But
thing.
Imagine the level of stress you were undergoing this last few years. Like, that must have been. She must notice that.
Yeah, she had gone through a lot. I mean, my mom gone through a lot. I mean, my girlfriend Juliette has gone through a lot. I mean, they were both. I mean, honestly, especially in those hard times, like, the surroundings are so important. Like, and this is a part of, like, I think I mean, my mom, my brother, and my girlfriend, like, they they keep me grounded. Like, they sort of, like, I think one thing about us, like Luan and I, we still have sort of the underdog chip on our shoulder mentality. Like, we we don't take ourselves too seriously. Like, I think and I think part of it is the people, like, around us. I think they just keep us grounded.
I know today is your anniversary with
Juliette.
Yeah, maybe so. Tell us a little bit how she has influenced you and impacted you during this journey.
I think she has a massive. I think Juliette is, like, honestly, like, she's a fundamentally, genuinely, like, one of those rare people that are in this world that are like you spend time with them and you're like, this is a truly great person, like, very strong value system, fundamentally kind and caring, and in a bunch of other things, like fun and all these other things. But, like, the I think that's very rare, like, very, very rare. And like, everybody says that about everybody, but, like, I really mean it. And I think there were a lot of times where, like, the two impacts are, like, there are a lot of times where things were so hard that, like, she carried a lot of the burden with me. And, like, I think people don't talk about that enough. Like, I think the partners oftentimes, like, they carry a lot with whoever is sort of, like, doing the thing, whether it's the president or, like, the entrepreneur or, like, whatever. They carry a lot. I mean,
take
this, right?
Heat, yeah.
I mean, Lara was probably this very similar, right?
100%.
Like, and in some ways it's a bit disproportionate, honestly. Like, they deal more with the downsides than the upsides in some ways, right? Honestly, mostly because they don't care that much about the upsides. It's interesting, like, especially those types of people. I mean, there's certain type of people that would care a lot more with the upside, but those probably wouldn't be there for the downside. So,
yeah.
But, like, the type of people that would be there for the downside, they usually don't care that much about the upside. So they get more negatives out of the downsides than they get positives out of the upsides. And so it's tough for them, I think. And so she's been instrumental in basically, like, keeping me sane through the very, very hard times. There were times where things were really, really rough. And she pulled me out of those times to make sure that I'm staying reasonably sane. I think the second thing is, like, she keeps me very grounded. Like,
Do you think it's better for founders to be in a relationship?
I think it depends on the founder. I mean,
For you, it was?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just depends on the founder, but for me, definitely. I mean, like, same question like kids. I don't know. People think about that a lot. Like, I think it depends, right? Like, I think it depends. I think there are some people where kids just get them to be more disciplined, which ends up being net positive.
Yeah.
Right? If you aggregate all the kind of time waste that you have in the day, and you basically actually optimize that, that gets better. And then people that just slow down. I think it just depends. Yeah.
So now, like, let's go back through the story, right? And try to get the kind of, what do you think were some of the key learnings for you and that would be applicable for people watching the story and listening to the story?
It's hard because, one of the advice is like, like the easy advice. I mean, look, the two things is like, being naive is actually like a pretty powerful force. because it allows you to bend the curve. And that's why sometimes like younger people are the people that can change the system more than older people. Number two is I think that I really believe this. Like I think that like the sheer force of will thing. Like I think that like the number one risk for any company is the founders giving up. It just is. Like that's the actual company killer. You know, it's not like competition. It's not like I mean, running out of money is sometimes, but you can always figure that out, and you can always like. But the number one killer of a company is the founders giving up, and so, you know, does that mean I would advise people to go through the journey we went? I don't think so. This is the interesting thing. I think it's for a specific set of people, not everybody. You know how like there's this sort of idea that like being an entrepreneur is like better than anything else. Like that's the holy grail of what one can do, and it's like it's not quite right? Like it's a bunch of the trade-offs, right? Like you know, it has a lot of upsides, but it has a lot of downsides with it, and it's not for everybody. Like you know, there are people that can have a very successful, like balanced, happy life without that, you know, and that's fine, you know, and there are people that can't, and you know that's also fine. So my general rough sense is like, okay, well, if you figure out what to do in life, you have to figure those questions out first. But like if you want to be an entrepreneur, I mean, I really believe now it's like you're picking a career, and you're like, you know, you the single biggest thing that you have, like the single biggest asset you have, is you're just not giving up, you know, because everything else you can learn. You can become like a really good leader. You can become a really good fundraiser. You can become a really good recruiter. You can become really good at product, and all these different things you could do. But like, I think the giving up part, it might actually be the hardest part about building a company. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And look, I think that I say this all the time to my younger friends. Is like, look, everyone in their life will have opportunity. That opportunity does not be the same for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like this opportunity, you know, is just like so fit for you. You know, it's like you said, you didn't want to be an entrepreneur. You wanted to be an entrepreneur for this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's very powerful that you found that so early in life, you know, and I think that if someone, I don't know, my advice for people would be that if you feel that you found that thing that just pulls you the same way this pulled you, you know, go for it.
Yeah, you're gonna no. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to find another one, right? Like,
yeah,
it's unlikely, and I agree with that. I do think so. That like, if you find the thing,
so special.
Yeah, I do think that like, yeah, the pain of regret is like is higher than the pain of doing the thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
The pain of regret kind of sucks, you know. It's
and dude, like, what would do you think that the grit that you have, it was just inherent, or is there something that was going on there that you think like made you have more grit? Was there anything you were doing or anything that was going through your mind, like any specific chip that like kind of had you? Was it sunk costs? Like where do you think that grit come from?
That part I think is like
just you.
Yeah, I don't think you can like like I think this is like, I mean, innate plus how you grew up. Like I think it's a mix of like, you know, how yeah, I think genes plus, you know, those formative years when you grow up.
Maybe the combination of Luana too, right?
I mean, Luana has also independently also had that. So the two of us together, like, just ends up being like, and like we rank extremely high on the spectrum of grit. Like, I don't think this can be instilled in somebody.
Do you think either of you could have done by yourself or no?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't think so. I don't know. Like, there's too many ways that this would have fallen and fell, you know, if it wasn't the two of us. So it's hard. It's hard to as a guard, but I don't think so. Like, I don't think so. There are like too many ways where this, you know, her alone it would have failed, and me alone it would have failed. So
having like a co-founder with similar levels of grit, that was like a huge thing too.
Yeah, and I think it depends, like, right? Like, you just have to have a combo that works. And there's so many ways to kind of think about what works, and you know, because we have very similar background. Usually, the pattern is like, oh, you should have had someone like that's a bit more tech and engineering, and someone that's a bit more like, you know, the commercial business person. Like, and there's a lot of like, you know, it's hard. I really think that over time is like you have to figure out a company that works for you and the way that you want to build a company, and there really is not. It's just really one of those things that there isn't a playbook. There really isn't. I mean, that you cannot replicate. Like, could Tony Xu build the company? His companies like Elon is building? Like, no chance. And vice versa.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like it's completely, and the image of the company becomes the founder. So, and like to the point here is like I don't know if it's like necessary that maybe one could have. Look, I think both founders need to have a reasonable degree of grit. I think so. Otherwise, you're gonna have problems at some point. If founders are not very committed. But I place I trade on, like I can't trade on Kalshi obviously because I don't. It's illegal for me to trade. But like, I mean, I buy crypto and stocks every once in a while.
As we're getting close to the end here, if you think 5 years from now, what do you think is going to be the largest market in Kalshi?
Well, it's interesting. It depends on the year, right? Because like 3 years from now, it's the election, right? But 5 years. I mean, 5 years from now, we have sort of commoditized and created tradable indices out of a variety of different things. Like, the same way you trade like S&P and the same way you trade like interest rates, you're trading like the Republican index and you're trading the climate change. Like you're trading like all these big sort of like questions about the world actively, like all these different things. So which one of these are, I don't know, honestly. I think politics will be very large. Generally, I think like the political process will be very traded and very large across the board. But I don't know. I don't know. The one single market, I don't know. It's going to be something surprising. Some crazy things that happen in the world that we didn't, like none of us expected. And people will be trading it in bulk.
Who's the entrepreneur that you most relate to? I didn't say admire on purpose.
Relate to, it's interesting. I mean, admires, there's a lot, right? Like Elon, Tony Xu, a lot of others. Me personally, like when I kind of think about it, like, it's interesting. Like I'll tell you, maybe like, let me answer it a little bit differently. Everybody wants to be like Elon. That's like the kind of, and I think a lot of our history has some similarities, like has this sort of crazy.
I actually think everyone says that, but if you actually said it, I would think it has some truth to it.
Yeah. And I believe, like, I do genuinely think that like, I have this sort of, I don't, by the way, I don't mean this to be in like some of these questions like sometimes can make me like, maybe one thing is like, that doesn't mean like I'm this sort of mythical special figure, right? Like, and I like,
it's just like brain chemistry.
It's brain chemistry, yeah, right? Like it's the way that your brain is wired, and it comes with a lot of downsides, right? Like your internal dialogue is like is pretty tough. So, and I always try to tell this to people, like, don't sort of admire, like, oh my God, there's how there's these mythical figures in Silicon Valley.
Idolize it.
Yeah, idolize. Don't idolize it. Like that's not what you think it is, right? But I think I often sometimes think like, some of the way I grew up, like so the rejection that I've received, I like got bullied at certain times of my when I was a child. The way my brain chemistry works, I have a little bit of this sort of like, I want to call it like crazy tilt that I think he has, and everybody wants to be like that. Part of me, honestly, sometimes I'm like, when I look at some of the founders that are around, like I think Tony Xu is like
amazing.
Like, I would love to be more like Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this insane discipline in the company, the insane discipline personally, etc. But I have a long way to go. It's like, I just think he's figured it all out. And also it's like DoorDash being $100 billion company is insane. Like from where that's like a hard market to basically turn into $100 billion company from where he started.
Yeah, and dude, I think that look, in the trade-off section, I think you have an extremely high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
But but the thing of that is you actually seek more pain, right? Because you can take it.
Correct. It's like it's like what we discussed at the beginning, right? Like you have a high pain tolerance, so it means like you can do these types, like you can go all the way to be an entrepreneur and do crazy things. But like, if you stop doing it, in some ways you kind of like need it to basically be alive, otherwise you get sluggish.
What is something that, now when you have kids, what is something that you, based on how you brought up in your history, like what will be some of the values that you're going to want to pass to them?
I've been thinking about this bunch. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if I want my kids to be this sort of hyper, like, I don't know if they need to have this pain tolerance. Like maybe they can just like be successful and live a healthy, balanced life without having to be like pushed to the
Limit.
ultimate extreme, So yeah, I think that like, there's a few things, but like, I think this general idea of like, like the important things in life are generally hard. You just don't get them. Like you will have to figure out what type of pain you want to take, and you have to basically like deal with it. Like you could be rich, you could be not, like no matter what it is, you're gonna have to deal with some level of pain. Like you're gonna, and like you have to figure out how to position your, like you need to figure out which type of pain you want to do and make sure it's like a purpose driven pain, not like just pain. And maybe just make sure to concretize that. It's like, the guy in the arena is like is in pain, obviously, but like the guy in the stand is also in pain because he's kind of jealous and like feels like his life is meaningless,
100%.
They're both, so which pain do you want, right?
Take
like,
your pain.
Yeah. And so I think that's important. I think too, I do think that like, don't take yourself too seriously. I think that's like, it's going to be very important. Like, I think that like, I think just being like a normal person is pretty important. And like, I've seen, like it's kind of company scale is like, people change the way that they act with you and like all of that. But like, the if you start taking yourself seriously, the problem is like you will lose the core. And the core is the only thing that is left in all your darkest moments. And you will have dark moments. Like people will have that. Like dark moments will happen. It doesn't matter. Like, there'll be death. There will be, it's like when you're 90 years old, like who's around you, like, all these different questions. And I think that like they require a certain level of discipline around sort of staying humble and saying like, I mean, humble is a bit too strong of a word, but not taking yourself too seriously, right? But yeah, maybe those are two.
Amazing, dude. Well, I know we're at time, so
cool.
Very, very grateful to do this. Very inspiring story.
Thanks for having me.
Honestly, one of the favorite interviews I've done so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
100%.
Thanks for having me.
Of course,
that was fun.
Thanks to our friends at Atomic Growth for helping with production and distribution.